welcome to another edition of Unpluggered and another successful edition as the Saints move to 8 and 4, still sitting 5th on the table. So our ladder position remains the same, but we strengthen our position in the 8 ahead of another big challenge, a challenge that presents similarly to the Port Adelaide one a few weeks ago where we take on Brisbane at the GABBA. It has technically been our home for the last few weeks, so that might blunt the away factor a little bit, but no doubt imposing opposition. But a really relaxed victory, I guess, over the Bombers. We've had some nervous moments this year, and I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but this wasn't one of them. It was a little bit nervy before the game, but once the game started, it appeared quite clear that St Kilda would win that game most of the way through. So that's always a nice afternoon sitting down to watch it. But 10-8, 68 to 5-3, 33. Max King gets his Rising Star nomination. He kicked 3, probably could have kicked 6 on the balance of opportunities that he had on the day. But an impressive 4 points. The majority of players played quite well, despite Ben Patton going down with concussion in the first quarter. So we monitor his progress over the next little while to see if he obviously gets up for the clash with Brisbane at the same time this Sunday. But H, as we welcome you in, first of all, always nice to beat any of the 3 Cs, of course, Carlton, Collingwood or Essendon, and we got the job done.
It felt a bit like a turn up, do what we have to do, get it done, concentrate on next game. It sort of, once the first quarter was over and it was like, yeah, look, we've got this controlled, it was almost, yeah, let's do what we have to do, conserve a little bit. We've had a big 3 weeks, and sort of just keep the foot on a little bit, but don't run yourself into the ground. It was a good feeling to get out that early and, yeah, take control of the game and then just be able to hold them at arm's length. So good all-round performance, really.
And it was one of those ones where, you know, we kind of had the game controlled at quarter time, and you know, we've seen a few times where we've let it slip after that, and we didn't do that, which was good. But we also didn't put the foot down. You know, there were a few moments after quarter time where we kind of went, we should probably, you know, put a bit more effort in or something. I don't know what's going on, but we looked a bit flat after quarter time, but managed to hold on, and you know, we did what we had to do. It's almost as if we kind of put the cue in the rack and put a man behind the ball and said, right, we're not going to take it easy, but, you know, we're going to do what we have to do. We're not going to go flat out. We're not going to put the foot down. We're just going to try and conserve energy, keep the ball, make sure that we keep controlling the game, and don't give the Bombers a chance to kind of get themselves back in it to much of an extent. And that's what we did. We kind of controlled the game from that point on. We probably could have won by 10 or 15 goals after that first quarter, which I was kind of looking forward to. I was hoping that we would, because we haven't done it for so long. But you know, equally happy to get out of the game with no kind of serious concerns, and you know, look forward to a contender on the weekend.
Yeah, and I guess it was probably a case that the Bombers were clearly under strength with a lot of players out of their side. They've got one of the worst injury lists in the comp, and they had the 4-day break. We saw what the 4-day break had done to us the week before. Not that Geelong felt any effects of it coming out of it to flog Port Adelaide, but the majority of teams that have had a 4-day break have struggled a little bit. And the Bombers, once they fell 4 or 5 goals down, they're not going to overrun us, you wouldn't think, coming off that break. But we looked a little tired still as well. We probably looked tired in the Gold Coast game. We were certainly tired in the Geelong game. In the Essendon game, the whole second half was largely junk time. It was pretty scrappy and sloppy, and both sides playing fairly defensively. So I get the feeling we sort of wanted to just get out of this block of matches and the grind. We won the game. We got through it. It goes back to relatively normal now. We've got a 7-day break before Brisbane, and I think a week before we play Melbourne, and then a bye after that. So we're sort of back on normal transmission now before a heavy schedule. We've got one more 4-day break, which is against West Coast, but they also have a 4-day break going into that game. So that helps offset that a little bit. And it's at the GABBA, not in Perth, which is a massive benefit. So we've taken another step closer. If we win 10 games, we definitely make the finals. There's an outside chance we get in with 9, but we're 8 steps of the way to those 10 wins. So we just got to get, obviously, 2 more to secure that position. But it did have that feeling, H, that both sides were pretty cooked after half-time.
Yeah, I mean, look at the match that they played on. Was it the Tuesday before us? I think it was. Was it
Wednesday?
No, Wednesday.
Against the Gold Coast.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a slog for them. I mean, bit draining as well. If they come out with a win, they may have had a bit more pep in their step, but they fought hard and got the draw. So that may have dropped them down a little bit as well. But yeah, I saw a bit of a package that someone put together about them, and the amount of times where they marked the ball, went sideways, stopped, kicked long. And that's basically all they did all day. So we're able to pick those off. And
how did you feel, H? I'm a nervous supporter, but when I saw their selected team on the Saturday night and the players that they left out, I thought it'd be a pretty ordinary loss if they beat us with that team.
If they beat us, yeah, absolutely. There was always the confidence there, looking, going, this is a team that we should, on paper, account for pretty easily.
Yeah,
they have their list drops off pretty significantly after their top few players. It's a few there that you look and go, yeah, they definitely wouldn't be playing if there's a fit list. So in the state they're in at this time, we had to make sure we beat them. And that gives a little bit of nervousness, but we sort of we should be fine with it.
I mean, we spoke about it last week. It really was for us, if we want to be playing finals in 2020, a must-win game. We spoke about it last week, and to bounce back off that loss, previous iterations of this footy club would have fallen in a heap, no matter the opposition, no matter if Essendon had 12 blokes out, no matter if it was Adelaide on the bottom of the ladder, wouldn't matter. We would find a way to lose the game, and that was kind of one of the things. Even though we didn't play fantastic footy, we didn't dominate like we potentially could have or should have in different circumstances, but we didn't drop our bundle, and it was good to come back from a 10-goal loss and show that we can win games of footy again.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, Max King, clearly a highlight. So he's kicked 2 in the first quarter. He took a mark at the top of the goal square and played on and got run down. So that would have been a certain goal. He missed another set shot, and I reckon he took another mark that wasn't paid at the top of the goal square as well. So he could have had a 5-goal first term, potentially. Kicked a goal late and obviously had a terrific bit of play on the half-forward flank where he picked one off his toes, did a blind turn and did a handball setup. So all positives for Max, and he's his third favourite for the Rising Star. And if he found a bag in the last 5 weeks, like if he could he had a game where he kicks 5 or something like that, which is tough for a young kid late in a season, but he's certainly a chance to win the award. You've got guys like Noah Anderson and Caleb Sarong at Fremantle that I think are the two that are ahead of him. But if you compare him, so he's top 6 in the league for contested marks, top 8 or 9 for goals, and I think he's top 4 in the AFL for targets inside 50 for a 20-year-old. And all those guys around him are guys like Hawkins, Dixon, Jeremy Cameron, Rewalt, those sorts of players. So his numbers are stacking up really well, and they're stacking up better than Jesse Hogan's did the year he won the Rising Star as a key forward. So he could mount a pretty strong case for him.
Well, you look at the year that Cozzy won. The nominees who were getting nominated early kind of started dropping off and like either not playing or were injured or just lost the form. And he came along in round 14 and got his nomination and then won it. So there's a precedence there for a tall forward having a big finish to a year. Well, he played down back obviously for us in that year, but a big player having a good finish to the year, finishing strong and getting in the eye of the people who are voting.
Not to mention Max has completely changed the way our forward sets up. He's changed the way we play for a kid. I mean, those other kids have been terrific, but I'm not sure anyone's impacted a team structure as much as Max has impacted ours.
Well, it impacts the defending as well.
That's right.
They match up against him. They're not, you don't see many teams going, the first year player, we need to watch them. So
his agility and work ethic as well makes him dangerous because he chases and tackles and he puts pressure on. I saw a tweet yesterday from Dylan Atkinson on Twitter who put a list of 2020 goals, contested marks and tackles inside 50s for key forwards. And Max comes in 5th on the list with 52 total behind the likes of Tom Hawkins, Charlie Dixon, Josh Kennedy and Matt Taberner. He's 20 years old. He's 5th on that list. The next youngest is 27. It's unbelievable, the things that he's doing to our forward line and to our structure at his age. Not to mention that he didn't play at all last year. What he's doing is amazing.
Yeah, and basically, I think if we start seeing these marks sticking, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, as I said, he was playing on Michael Hurley too. He's a very good player, and he tore him apart for the large part. And that was probably his chance to kick a bag. Like I said, he should have had at least 4 at quarter time, possibly 5. And then who knows what happens from there. But yeah, there's going to be days where that happens for Max, that's for sure. And retrospectively, he'd be the number 1 draft pick, you'd think, in that draft. But obviously, you've got to I know we've been full of superlatives, but you've got to temper, obviously, expectations as much as you can and just try to keep a lid on it and nice and relaxed. He's only played the 12 games, and hopefully he gets to play in a final in his first season at AFL level, which would be a nice little learning curve for him as well. But I said I'd banned the F word, so I'll just do that as just a one-off and wait a little bit until that's mathematically impossible to miss. But votes out of that game, I thought it was another one that was pretty tough. I thought there were various stages of the game where I had Rowan Marshall best on ground. Certainly half-time he was BOG, but in the end I went 3 votes to Zach Jones, 26 possessions in his 100th game. Played an outstanding game, I thought. 2 votes to Josh Battle, did it at both ends, took 9 marks, kicked an important goal in the second quarter and plenty of intercepts as well. And I could have given the 1 vote to a number of people. I could have given it to either of the ruckmen, Paddy Ryder or Rowan Marshall. I could have given a vote to Billings. I could have given a vote to Steele. I could have even given a vote to Max, but I gave a vote to Nick Caulfield, who I thought played his best game for the club, took 10 or 11 marks in the back half. And especially with Patton not there and everybody's responsibility going up a little bit more, I gave it to Caulfield. So 3 Jones, 2 Battle, 1 Caulfield for me, Nick.
Yeah, 3 to Jones. I think standout player on the field. 26 touches, 5 tackles, 4 clearances. Did just about everything except kick a goal, and probably deserved 1 or 2 in a few of those occasions where he kind of was streaming through the middle. 2 to Nick Caulfield. I agree. I thought that was probably his stand-up game, to be honest. He did everything that was required of him and more when Ben Patton went down. 19 touches, 10 marks. His intercepting, I think he had 9 intercept possessions as well, and was just unbelievable in the back half. And like you said, there's a number of players that could have given the one vote to, and I'm giving it to someone who you didn't mention. That was Brad Hill. I think that was by far his best game for the club. Led the team in metres gained. Looked like he was utilised more, which is something that Ratton's been talking about for a while. But his ability to dictate the play when he's got the ball is amazing. And it's hard to see on TV, but occasionally you can see kind of what he makes players do in front of him when he has the ball. And he really determines the outcomes of our set plays from the back half. It's really incredible to watch. And that was by far his best game for the footy club so far. And I'm expecting a lot more from him. And
so, similar votes my way as well. Jones, clear best on ground. Just workmanlike on that in that match. Gave us plenty of drive and just moved it out beautifully out of the centre for us. The 2 was where I actually struggled because I've got one who I definitely want to give 1 vote to, but I had to go, okay, who am I going to give the 2 to? I ended up going to Battle, both ends of the ground, provided 1 a target up forward and defensively jumped in down the back, and just an all-round performance that that's the sort of game that we really want him to play for us. Like if we're struggling down forward, he can go up there and be the X factor. If we're struggling down back, he can go down there and hold us up even better than what we have been if we're struggling or something. And the 1 I had to give it Paddy Ryder. His third quarter is the reason that we stayed in that game. That third quarter was nothing but brilliant. Just the contested marks he took, the being in the right place, just knowing where the ball was going and being able to get there and basically take the intercept mark. Because he stopped, I don't know how many drives. I mean, he had, what did I see? It was only 4 marks for the match, but I'm pretty sure all 4 of those were in the third quarter.
Yeah, one of them led to that goal, which was an important momentum stopper.
Yeah, just for that quarter solely alone, that's why he gets a vote for me.
Yeah, he was terrific. Having watched the replay on Monday morning for a bit, his hit-outs to advantage, he was just doing what he wanted when he was in the ruck. And that was exactly how you want the combination to work. Marshall dominated around the ground in the first half, was winning clearances and marking everything. Marshall would have had 5 or 6 clearances. I haven't seen the numbers, but I'd be surprised if he didn't have 5 or 6 clearances and multiple inside 4 and multiple inside 50s. And Ryder was just tapping it down their throat. So
Ryder himself had 4 inside 50s and 4 score involvements as well, which is, it's not something that you think about when you think of Paddy Ryder and his work. But
he's a beautiful goal too.
He's a beautiful kick, but also like Hill, I think his leadership on field and the ability to make players around him better. I think, like you said, the way that he stood up in that third quarter was really impressive.
Yeah, and that's the combination. Obviously, we didn't have Ryder against Geelong or Jones, so I guess 2 of those better players that needed a spell, and they're probably always going to. And especially this week against Brisbane, who are missing their first 2 choice ruckmen, Stephen Martin and Archie Smith, their number 1 and 2 choice ruckmen. So Oscar McInerney, who's a big boy, has been rucking a bit for them, but they've got a lot of tools, Brisbane, but certainly a chance that's an area where we might be able to potentially get some control in the game. But our special guest was a popular Saint. He only played for St Kilda for 3.5 years, but the club has been home ever since his arrival in 1991. We speak, of course, of the Fly, Russell Morris.
Coughlin coming through centre. To half forward, he's found his man, and this is Russell Morris.
In the centre square, Lockett wide, there's the target, Rice in the front spot, or free kick Lockett. Play on call, Rice to kick another one. Bang, through. 2 goals, 1 St Kilda, Adelaide yet to score.
Well, it's terrific now to be joined by Russell Morris, 66 games with the Saints, a premiership player with Hawthorn before that, and has certainly called St Kilda home since coming across at the end of 1990. A lot of us would remember some prolific days at Moorabbin in the early 90s where Russell would be taking 16 marks and getting 35 possessions on a fairly regular basis. So it was a big little period there. He went on to be a boundary rider with Channel 7 and play-by-play commentary, and has obviously had a lot to do with the Saints in the past players realm. Russell, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me. Well, it's good fun.
Now, I guess with that, so you're a premiership player at Hawthorn where you've had a lot of success and you'll go to reunions time and time again, but it does appear, at least from our point of view, that you've completely taken St Kilda to heart, and that as soon as you arrived at the club, you fell in love with St Kilda and became a St Kilda person. Can you take us through whether that's accurate and perhaps why that was the case, why you fell, I guess, so in love with the club?
Well, Ken Sheldon and Peter Hudson approached me at the end of 90 and gave me a bit of an option. And St Kilda was the last club I was going to go to because, driving down the Nepean Highway, I lived in Kew, so I'm on the other side of town. No desire whatsoever. Richmond approached me. Kevin Bartlett came to me with Noel Judkins, and they came to me, but they had no players, they had no future, and also they had no money. Sheldon and Hudson had a little bit of a bank to play with, but as you know, St Kilda was notorious for not paying their players. However, they were in a different situation, and you have a look at the goal line. They had Frawley at fullback. They had a young Harvey Burke in the middle. They had Stewie Lowson up forward. They had Plugger at full forward. They had Winmar on the wing. They had David Grant on the half-back flank. Russell Jeffries on the half-back flank. So I thought, oh, hang on, this is pretty good. Plus they offered me $65,000 in 91. So I thought, oh, that was pretty good to twist my arm. So had a great 3 years there, three and a half years, because I retired after round 5. And then, look, Hawthorn have had an enormous amount of success. They've won 13 premierships in the last 50 years, and St Kilda haven't. So it's really transferred my attention to try and help the club out. I think they need support. The past players was run by some fantastic people in the past with Neil Roberts and Brian Muir and Cowboy Neil, amongst others, and Jeff Saru. But it was sort of going nowhere, and they came and approached me and said, look, can you give us some ideas? And I came up with some ideas, and they loved the ideas so much, they said, right, you're president. So I thought, well, okay, why not? I'll give it a shot. And what it's done for me, it's been the best thing for me. It's revitalised my career because I've connected with a lot of people that I was involved with when I was a player, which is really nice. And they're fantastic. St Kilda people are probably the most loyal people going around. As you can imagine, you guys, you've been following the club all your lives, limited success, but you stick with it, don't you? You do. And it takes a really good type of character to stick with a particular club that doesn't deliver you too much success, whilst we played in a few grand finals, but so close. But that was pretty much the reason, and I've been loving it, I suppose, for the last 10, 15 years.
So you came in and you became the original tall, blonde number 12 at the club. And,
I was either first. You had Ross, you had Cat Colling.
But yeah, so we talked a little bit just beforehand about and mixed up with the number, but you wore the number 12 and it was a little wonky.
It was a crooked 12, crooked 2.
Yes. Now,
I inherited that. I reckon. Remember Cliffy Pryor, I don't know whether you're aware, Cliff Pryor was the property steward at the time, and Cliff only just died about a month ago, actually. So poor old Cliffy. But Cliffy and Mickey Cusack, they were the two guys that were managing all the property. I reckon Cliffy's wife was on the sherry because they used to sew the numbers onto the back of the jumpers, right? Today they're all manufactured and they're all printed. Everything's printed. But the old days, we had the Tui's logo printed, sewed on. Numbers were sewed on. All the sponsors were sewed on. And the 2, for some reason, was sewed on crooked. So I reckon they might have been on the piss.
Now, there was a bit of a rumour that you started playing well with it and you had a new jumper coming and you asked for the next one to be sewn on a bit crooked as well, yes?
Yeah. Because they change the jumpers every year. I kept it. Yep. I thought, I've got to play with it the second year because everyone would always say, fix your number 2. Remember the barbecue squad?
Yep.
Yeah, all that crew. Even in the animal enclosure, also the cheer squad. Fix your number 2. No, I'm not fixing my number 2. So it's sort of become a little bit of a mini legend.
You played a fair bit of footy with some iconic Saints. Obviously, early in your career, you would have spent a fair bit of time in the defensive 50 with a young Tony Lockett, and then coming to St Kilda, spent a bit of time in the back half with Spud Frawley. Can you give us some memories of your time with Spud and what Spud was like, but also of Plugger? And
just on Plugger, I played on Plugger's first ever practice match. We played down at the Harry Trott Oval down at Albert Park. I think Plugger might have been 17. I was playing with Hawthorn and I played full back. And I think it might have been 86. When did Plugger first arrive?
83.
83 was 83. Okay. So it was the earlier days. I played on Plugger as a young kid in a practice match. So I remember that. And he was really lazy, really, really lazy. But I think we knew that. But then coming to St Kilda, he became, he was this powerhouse. He'd already kicked 100. How many times? Come on, guys. How many? Did he already had 200s?
His second was that year, 91.
That was his second. So 87, 91.
Yeah.
But in 91, he got really fit. Frawley was the glue. Danny was the captain. He understood that there was shit going on at the club, but he was really clever. He knew what was going on at administrative level, player level. He transcended all the different boundaries within the club, and that's why he was one of the greatest personalities of St Kilda Footy Club. I love Spud, and he kept the players together. He was connecting to coaches. He was connected to administration. He pretty much was one of these guys that was able to connect to everyone. Plugger, everyone was scared of. He pretty much had his own rules to a certain extent. It was Plugger's way. And then there was everyone else, which is a bit of a pity. I think that's why we're probably never going to win a flag with him. With a club, if you've got one rule for one and then other rules for others, it tends to be a bit disjointed, no matter how good a player is. And look, he was obviously the greatest player, I believe, at St Kilda. But then, he ended up going to Sydney. But I remember one time, do you mind can I tell a story about how Plugger nearly killed me? Okay. We were training, and Ken Sheldon was ex-Carlton. Peter Hudson was ex-Hawthorn. Sheldon came from a club that he won 3 premierships with Carlton, and he came from a club where everyone was at the same level. Everyone hung shit on each other, right? Hawthorn was the same. If anyone got above themselves, the other players would grab them and drag them down to level, right? And that's why clubs were so successful. Everyone was on the same playing field. Sheldon came from that culture, and so did Hudson. So during 91, I went up to Ken and said, "Oh, mate, do you mind if I can play a little bit of a practical joke on Plugger? And Bomber thought, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's hang some shit on Plugger. So I thought, oh, this is good. So Plugger just come out with a book, and it was the Tony Lockett story. So you might have it.
Oh, I've got a copy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it was launched. Richard Stubbs was the breakfast show on Triple M at the time, and I was selling radio. I was an advertising executive at Triple M, right? So I thought, oh, okay, let's have a bit of fun with this. So I took the book into Stubbsy and I said, mate, hey, Richard, why don't you hang some shit on Plugger? So he did on air. So, this is good fun. So I took the tape and I took it down to the club and I said to Bomber, why don't we play this in the change rooms after training, and we'll hang shit on Plugger and have a bit of a laugh. Oh, that's a great idea, Fly. Let's do it. So after training, we all came in, and we're in the old gymnasium in Moorabbin. Everyone's lying around, doing some stretching, and I put this tape on. Anyway, Richard Stubbs started parroting Plugger. See Tony run, see Tony jump, see Tony knock opposition player out, and it was all this crap. No one laughed. And I thought, oh my God, what have I fucking done? and I looked at Plugger, and you could see the steam coming out of his ears. He's looking around going, who the fuck's put this on, right? So I've slithered across the floor like a snake, and I've grabbed the tape, I've turned the thing off, and I've just sort of thought, oh, I've got to get out of here. So I grabbed my bag, and I went into the back trainer's room, and I thought, I'll get a massage. I'll hide there with Kenny Whiffen. So I said, Ken, can you give me a massage? I've got to hide because I'm in a bit of trouble here. He said, what have you done? I said, oh, look, I hung shit on. I was responsible for that thing with Plugger, and I reckon he's cracked it. So I'm lying there. And with those massage tables, you have the hole in the face of the table, you can breathe. You've got your face in the hole. So I've got my face in this hole, right? Anyway, I'm just lying there and I'm getting a massage. All of a sudden, the room stopped. They stopped talking. And there's a shadow comes over the top of me. And the trainers go, oh, g'day, Plugger. I'm lying there going, oh, shit, he's coming to the room. And the shadows come over the top of me. And he goes, hey, Fly, did you do that? I said, what? He said, you know fucking what? And I just lay there and I just said nothing. I thought he was going to push my head through the hole in the massage table. I thought he was just going to smash me through it. And I lay there and I said nothing. I was waiting for, just impending. When I'm waiting for the bullet in the back of my head, waiting, and there was like this pause. It might have been 10 seconds, but it felt like a minute. Anyway, he walked out. He left. He said, you fucking do that again, I'll fucking kill you. This is my first year at St Kilda. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm ruffling a bit of feathers here. But however, from that day on, I had his respect. He would talk to me before games. He'd ask me about Dunstall. He'd ask me about Hawthorn. I reckon that because I took him on, he thought, yeah, you got some fucking balls, mate. I'm not a fighter, I'm not tough or anything, but I had a crack at him. And I think I won his respect over. And I think from that day, we sort of really well connected. Never became his really mate or anything. But I reckon from that day on, I earned my place in the club, in Plugger's eyes.
Well, it's an interesting Plugger reference because 91 early days, you would have played away at Moorabbin a few times at Hawthorn, but probably one day that would have encapsulated Moorabbin a lot would have been 91 round 7 when St Kilda beat Adelaide by 131 points. So everyone remembers Plugger 12 in that comeback match, but you had 33 possessions and took 18 marks that day as well.
No,
to be on that side,
probably my best ever game.
To be on that side of the fence in Moorabbin and obviously have that atmosphere behind you, was that the ultimate welcome to St Kilda, where you've torn a team apart at Moorabbin in front of a big crowd like that?
You know what? Leading up to that game, Adelaide had arrived in 91. They pulled the Hawthorn's pants down in round 1. They knocked off a few good sides. Jarmans were flying. Danny Hughes full back. They had a really good side, and they really turned the AFL at the time on its head. They arrived at Moorabbin, and everyone around the club's going, "Oh my God, this club, what's going to happen?" And 33,000 people turned out. It was packed, and remember, well, because Plugger missed the first 6 games because he hurt his back against West Coast in the pre-season game at Waverley. So he was out, injured. He hadn't played a game. And also Winmar had been out. So it was Winmar's return game, Lockett's return game, big crowd. Adelaide were unknown. No one had seen them. And bang, I remember first bounce, Paul Harding, tap, Harvey, step, pop, kick, Lockett, bang. First 10 seconds, Lockett kicks the goal. Oh, hang on, we're on here. This is good. Anyway, he had 9 by half time. And I remember, I don't know whether you guys were at the game, but just before half time, he took a mark, and Danny Hughes he's had 9 kicked on him already by half time. And Lockett shoved the ball in his face, fuck off. Anyway, Graham Corns, the coach, he's gone to sent the runner out and dragged Hughes. And Hughes has had to run around the boundary in front of the Huggins stand. And I reckon they've buried him. The whole crowd just said, fuck you. They just gave it to him. Unfortunately, Lockett ran out of petrol in the second half. He only kicked another 3. So we got 12, as you said. Kicked 12. But I reckon, I also believe that winning score, I think we kicked 24 goals to 4. I think the winning margin over Adelaide's the best ever still. I think it's Adelaide's still biggest defeat still in their AFL history.
Yep.
24 goals to 4.
It is, yeah.
So we hold that. Love that day, I must admit. And as you can see, I don't know much about the game, but I'm a big Saints man, so I'm very passionate about the club. But love. I don't know whether you remember also that year, you probably do know, but I'll just remind your listeners and your viewers. Lockett that year, he kicked 127 goals in 17 games. I think at an average of 7.36 or something like that, right? Yep. 7.36. How does a player that averages 7.36 goals a game not win the Brownlow medal?
If he had played every game that year, he would have kicked 172 goals. On average.
Yeah, that's right. Averaging 7 goals. I think he kicked 12 against Carlton. I think
11 against Brisbane, 12 against Sydney.
Yeah, he might have kicked 10 on Langford at Hawthorn.
Yeah, he just tore everyone apart. Kicked 9 in a final. Obviously, can't get Brownlow.
Kicked 9 against Geelong,
kicked 9 in a final. So.
That's one of the greatest years I've ever seen. I was around for 11 years, but that Lockett year in 91 was extraordinary.
Well, it was 747, so he was actually a jet.
7.47, was it?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay.
So,
yeah. Good. That's
so he's literally a jet that year.
The jumbo jet.
Personally, you've just mentioned that you worked at Triple M for a bit.
Yep.
Anyone that didn't quite know who you were and you introduced yourself, did anyone ever ask you to sing a song? Did you ever get confused?
Oh,
every time?
Yeah. Russell Morris, the real thing, all that.
Yep.
Can you give us a few bars?
Oh, mama. Yeah. That generation's a bit past because that song was written in 71. It was recorded in 71. Molly wrote it. No, Johnny Young wrote it and Molly produced it. So it's an Australian icon. It's however, Russell's a big Richmond man actually, and I got to know him reasonably well over the journey. And I actually rang him and asked him to come and play at my wedding. So Russell Morris and the Lonely Boys played at my wedding, which was good. You do what you do these things. Yeah.
Where did the Fly nickname come from?
Alan Jeans gave it to me in '84. What he did when he would generally ring footballers, you found out you were playing in the paper. No team meetings. Hawthorn didn't have team meetings. So if you're named in the team, you generally get a phone call on the Friday night, but you'd know about it because you bought the paper or the radio. Oh, yeah, ins and outs. Simple as that. Anyway, I was picked in round 1 in 84 versus Carlton. And I didn't know that he would be ringing me on the Friday before a game to say welcome. So I was living with Chris Langford at the time in Brunswick. And we didn't cook. So we'd go down to the local and get pasta and bring it back and watch television. And I didn't know that he'd actually called. Anyway, I got to the game on 84, arrived, you arrive at 12 o'clock, all excited. And Yabby walked up to me and he said, "Hey, young Morris, I tried to ring you last night and you wasn't home." I said, "Well," so I got all I got a bit rattled, right? Because everyone's saying, "Well done, congratulations, first game." But his welcome was, "I tried to ring you, but you wasn't home." And I said, "Oh, I was just out getting some food." He said, "Hey, tell you, if you want to be a social butterfly, go and play somewhere else." So from that, I thought, okay, fine. But then at training, if I'd go near the ball, he'd go, "Come on, social butterfly, run. Come on, social butterfly." So he started yelling at social butterfly and thinking, "Oh, please," because you don't pick your own nickname. And all the players, everyone's going, "Who's the social butterfly? Who is this?" And I just thinking, "Oh, can you just shut the fuck up? I don't want to be called social butterfly." Because he used to say, because I lived with Langford. Langford was a Melbourne grammar boy, and I went to Campbell Grammar, because he used to say that we had the silver spoon in our mouth, because we were the private school boys at Hawthorn, right? And it just used to piss us both off. Hated it. So this social butterfly, then it's shortened to butterfly, then it's shortened to fly. But then along the season, Yabby would ring on a Friday and the phone would ring and I'm with Langford and I said, "I'm not answering it." And he goes, "I'm not answering it," because we knew who it was, because he'd just hang shit on us. Because we'd answer, "Oh, yeah, hello, yeah, hello, Fly. What's for dinner tonight? Chicken and champagne, is it?" So he'd be playing this silver spoon shit all the time, hanging shit on us, being private school boys, all this crap. And he was very, very funny about it. But when you're 20 years old, you get embarrassed. And you can't tell him not to say it, because you don't pick your own nickname. You've got to deal with it, because there's 40 other players on the training field and you just cop it. Simple as that. So
you moved to the most famous social club.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gone as the Fly to St Kilda Football Club. Oh, with the Saints disco. Oh God, yeah. I never went to the Saints disco. I missed it, but I've heard a lot about it. Russell Green told me a lot about it.
Now I know you've got to. Speaking of Fly, you've got to fly in a minute for other commitments. So I guess a last one from me. Now 97. We spoke a little bit about it on the phone last week, but I remember the 97 prelim before the game. They showed you on TV and you had the St Kilda socks on and you were pumping them up, and St Kilda running out onto the ground on the prelim. I remember you and your boundary duties standing alongside them, clapping them and saying, "Come on." And then you were there in the grand final, obviously on the boundary as well. What was that like, obviously balancing the professional role with the fact that the club you loved was trying to win a flag? And I guess how hard was it in the end that they didn't?
Oh, mate, look, it was so exciting at the time. But that's probably one of the most disappointing days that I've been involved with the club, watching, getting close, but not close enough. So, look, you think about it all the time, but you can't do much about it. So, what do? You guys are worse. You haven't seen anything. You haven't seen a win.
Thanks for reminding us.
You know what's going to happen this year? We're going to get in the grand final, and no one's able to go. That's the problem. This is going to be. We'll get there. We'll win it, and no one can go and watch it. That's my prediction.
I could live with it if it happened. I could live with it. No worries, mate. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought our first half was very good. We got the game sort of where we wanted it at half-time. And to respond the way that we did was really good. Yeah, it's sort of trying to still build that connection for Hilly and the group, and when's the right time and when's the wrong time. So he got a bit more of it tonight, which is great. But I thought there's some really good players for us, and I thought Josh Battle's first half was fantastic. His ability to impact the game, and Max looked like he was going to kick a big score early doors, and even in Timmy Memory and Marshall up there as well. So we had a few things going right. The second half there's some things that we probably didn't like. We got a little bit cute and tried to muck around with the footy and really fueled their in plays, and that gave them sort of 25 to 13 inside 50s in the second half. So I thought we did a really good job when the game was up for grabs. we rolled our sleeves up, got the job sort of done and put ourselves in a good position, but we could have given Essendon an opportunity there.
Russell Morris there, and also the thoughts of Brett Ratton, his coach's message in the lead up to this match in the aftermath of that game against Essendon. So we play Brisbane at the GABBA. It's an interstate, or it's an away game because it's Brisbane's home ground, but I guess it's been home for St Kilda for the last month or so. So that kind of blunts the normal getting on a plane and travelling to Queensland aspect, the fact that they've been up there. But clearly, if you had a choice, you'd rather play Brisbane at Metricon than at the GABBA. So Brisbane are 5-0 at the GABBA this year. They're 4-3 at other venues and have won at Metricon by a point and 3 points in other games. So they've been pretty vulnerable away from the GABBA, but the GABBA has been a fortress. So it's a tough challenge. That they've beaten Port Adelaide there easily. They beat the Bulldogs there. They flogged West Coast there. So there's certainly some challenges in it. But in saying that, Port Adelaide were in a very similar position. So if you look at our major challenges this year, Port Adelaide was a major challenge. We passed that with flying colours. Geelong was a major challenge, but one that we had excuses for the poor performance. It doesn't explain a 10-goal loss, but we were clearly feeling the pinch of a 4-day break. So this one will give us a more clear indication of where we're at. It's a big opportunity. Obviously, if we win the game, you could probably lock us in, certainly for finals and maybe even a little bit more than that. And obviously, if you lose the game, you want to see enough to suggest that you can compete if finals come around, if you're good enough to get there. So big opportunity. To go 9-4 would be massive for us. Carlisle and Kent were rested last week, so do they come in, and if so, for who? Obviously, the fitness of Ben Patton will determine a lot of that with his concussion. But Seb Ross was okay. He played all right last week. There's not a lot of guys that you would say. I mean, it's probably Loney versus Kent, maybe. Loney was all right. Kent had been all right as well. So, you'd think minimal changes, but whether they've got to get Carlisle back into that side because of the likes of Hipwood and McStay and those guys remains to be seen, hey?
It's an interesting one. I'm trying to work out whether Brisbane's a side that you want to go that bigger defenders, or because it's a lot of their pace is what they play with. It's going to be pushing them out to the wings to kick their goals, because a lot of they've
been very inaccurate.
Inaccuracy is just it almost cost them a game on the weekend when you look at it. If we can force them into the corners, and just that's where maybe you need that tall defender to play in the middle, not allow them to have that easy entry into the forward line. But at the same time, it's their small forwards that are getting down to the crumb and kicking the snaps and that sort of thing.
But out of form. Charlie Cameron is out of form, which helps.
Yeah, so
14 against us last year.
So does he come back into form like we do a lot of small forwards? It's so it is a tough one because, geez, they're a good team. So I mean, but we've seen North push them. North, I mean, they've always almost snatched that game, and never say never against them, I guess. It's, as I say, we've been playing there just as much as they have almost. So at the home ground is not there that it has been over the previous years. But yeah, we'll go into it with absolute chance, but it's just going to be a hard one to actually go, well, all right, this is how we've got to beat them. I mean, Neil, there's your starting point. Get the ball out of his hand.
Must be tagged. Absolutely.
Get the ball out of his hand and you've started half the job already. So, yeah, we'll just match up. This is a game you've got to find the right matchups and make sure we can win them.
Well, I mean, if ever there's a time that you want to play Brisbane at the GABBA, it's probably this for us. We've been there for a month. We've been up there for a month. We know the conditions. We know it pretty well now. It's, those sorts of things, home ground advantage and stuff is an unknown quantity. We know it exists, but how much we don't know. It's never something that's fully able to be qualified or quantified. So we've now been there for a month. We've played a few games. We know the conditions. We know it well. We know Brisbane. We've played them a number of times over the last few years. We know how they play. We know their strengths and weaknesses, and there aren't a lot of weaknesses, but they've got a hell of a lot of strengths, and we have to be able to manage each one of them because they're dangerous across each line. And that's one of the reasons I think that Carlisle has to come back in, because they've got the ability to swing different guys forward. And like you said, with Cameron out of form, they are relying on guys like Hipwood a bit more to be that focal point, the target. and if not taking a mark and kicking a goal, then at least bringing the ball down the ground. And so I think we need Carlisle and Howard in there, because Howard's more that lockdown fullback, the guy who is going to take your best defender. He's not necessarily a monster key defender, but he's your fullback who takes the full forward. And Carlisle is more of the rock who he's your big bloke in the middle of that defensive 50. He's going to get back in the goal square when he needs to punch it through. He's going to push up to halfback when he's got to hit a contest. He's the second or third man at other contests. And I feel like with guys like McInerney and Hipwood, who are so dangerous in the air, you've got to have a couple of options back there. And we know that Marshall can swing back. We know that Ryder can drift back and have an impact. But I would feel a lot more comfortable having Carlisle as a second big there. And then you have guys like Wilkie and Pat. Hopefully Patton's good to go. But if not, then another big week for Geary. That's going to be an interesting one. Where do they play Geary, back or forward again this week? But yeah, Lachie Neale. I mean, it's a similar question to what we raised with Dylan Shield last week. But Lachie Neale's a better player. So is it worth going head to head with Jack Steele and saying, a lot of your energy has to go to stopping Lachie Neale, but you've also got to be able to hurt him on the other side? Or do you have someone whose sole job is to stop Lachie Neale? And I'm not sure that's possible. I'm not sure you can stop him.
Yeah, obviously they've got guys
it's how you can hurt him the other way.
Obviously got guys like McCluggage and Witherden, but obviously Zorko and Neale are the main two. But on Brisbane and Lincoln McCarthy, another one obviously that needs a bit of attention as a small forward. But of their wins this year, their best wins at the GABBA, or the most noteworthy wins, or at any venue for that matter, they've generally put the foot down for 15 or 20 minutes and blown teams away in otherwise relatively even games. Against West Coast, they were 4 points down at halftime, kicked 5 goals to 1 in the third quarter and won by 30 points. So they outscored them by 25 in that quarter and put a space on them. Against the previously unbeaten Port Adelaide, they were a point in front at quarter time and kicked 6 goals to 1 in the second quarter, and then went on to win the game by 35 points. So did most of the damage in that quarter. Against the Western Bulldogs a couple of weeks ago, that game also played at the GABBA. It was 3 goals to 4. They were down. They then kicked 6 goals in a row in the second quarter and won that game by 24 points. So they've generally been arm wrestles, and then Brisbane have taken complete control in the middle for about 15 or 20 minutes, dominated the game, kicked 5 or 6 in a row, and that's the end of it. But otherwise, the game's been on a pretty even keel. So for St Kilda, it's, I guess, guarding against those momentum bursts from Brisbane. And if they come, being able to withstand that onslaught like they did against Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide put the foot down against us at the start of the third quarter, and we held them out and then obviously denied them and won the game. So it's a very winnable game. That the Lions are a dangerous, quick, skillful, aggressive team, fun to watch, probably play similar to the way we do in a lot of ways, but they've been doing it a bit longer. But it's certainly a winnable game. That they've got talented young forwards, but forwards that can be contained. We've got a real opportunity to give our midfielders first use if we can take control in the ruck. And it'd be good if Patton could play. If you've got Patton, Caulfield, Long, Clark, those sorts of guys, Geary, to control their small forwards. It's a game that, I get the feeling if we played them at the GABBA 10 times, we might win 3. Something like that, 2 or 3. So it's a question of whether we get one of those games this week, because it'll be a massive opportunity for us.
I'm a lot more confident this week than I otherwise might have been under similar situation. Given, like you mentioned, that Brisbane are a bit of that kind of burst type team, and they've put teams away with 10 or 15 minutes of chaos kind of football. We've shown that we can withstand that. Against really good teams. And like you said, Port did it, and Port played very similar to Brisbane too. The kind of, they want to move the ball quickly, they want to run, they want to kick long to targets, they want to hit the ball hard, they want contests, they want to long to the top of the square, all that sort of stuff that Brisbane do, that we do, very similar. Carlton are the same, very similar. We did it against them. So we know that we can manage teams that play that style of football. It's just a matter of whether or not we're good enough right now to contain probably the best at it. We've got some things to improve on. We know that we're not the finished article yet. Like you said, we were able to beat a few of those hoodoo teams, the Crows, the Power, the Swans, but we had issues with the Magpies. We had issues with Geelong, experienced teams and experienced midfielders, and Brisbane have an experienced midfield, and it's going to be something that is really important. I can't wait for this game, to be honest. It's probably the game that I've looked forward to most this whole season, and I don't know if it's because we've had the full week's break or what, but I actually can't wait for this game. It should be a cracker, and I think a lot of neutral fans would be a good idea to tune in and watch, because it should be full of fast flowing, attacking, offensive footy that's great to watch.
Yeah, it's the rebound ground, as we've heard it mentioned before. It's the ball. It can be at one end 1 second, and the next thing you'll blink and it's at the other end. It's just going to be bouncing around everywhere on the weekend. Both teams coming off a long break too, which is going to give us all a bit of a refreshment, and just probably going to be able to see the best of both teams at their best. If we've both been coming off a 4-day break, 5-day break kind of thing, it may have gone into a bit of a slog again, and it's just going to be getting the ball first. That's where the key is going to be. Get it first. Make sure we're there where the ball falls, because if he hits the ground and we're not there, they're gone. They're at the other end of the ground before in a blink of an eye. So it's just I guess knowing where to go, where to positions. We've played there. I'm just looking. We've actually played there a lot more than what they have recently. So
sure.
we know how the ground's playing. We played at the same time there on Sunday, just gone. So we know where the shadows are, which are annoying. We know where the which side of the ground to favour, and so we just a little bit of an advantage there, I guess. So it's just got to be ready. That's the key to the game. We need to be ready. Need to be knowing exactly what the plan is, who we got to shut down. Just if things aren't happening, switch it quick, because before you know, they're going to put 4, 5, 6 goals on, and you go, oh, well, it's over. So
we've got to take our chances, because they don't always take theirs. I mean, who knows? They might kick 11 goals, 3 or something this week.
Yeah.
Well, generally, we've been all right, obviously, in converting. It was another reasonable day in front of goal the other day. So, take your chances. Don't have any lapses in the game. They'll open you up if you do. So, but at the same time, we'll open them up if they do. We can hurt them if we get control at any period of the game. We're still the highest scoring team in the AFL. So, it should be. I'd imagine if you didn't barrack for either side, it wouldn't be a bad one to watch. But hopefully we hold up well, because obviously the shit gets pretty real if we can win this game, I would think. But fingers crossed for taking another scalp and another step in the right direction before Melbourne in Alice Springs the following week, which looks like a pretty intriguing game as well. But go Saints, enjoy Sunday, and hopefully they build up to this one. And good to catch up with Russell Morris. Apologies for the language sensitive, but that's Footy Club speak. So we're raw. We're not a filtered podcast. So that's right. We're going to get the warts and all type stuff, and always good to catch up with the ever entertaining Fly. But thanks, guys, and we look forward to a big one on Sunday.
Go Saints.